This incident, where Illinois State Representative Hoan Huynh, D. Chicago, was stopped by U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) agents in Chicago's Albany Park neighborhood, is a significant flashpoint in the escalating conflict between federal immigration enforcement and local sanctuary policies. It has ignited political outrage and raised serious questions about the operating procedures and accountability of federal agents within non-border states. Summary and analysis of the dispute. The core event revolves around a tense midday confrontation. State Representative Hoan Huynh, a refugee from Vietnam, was driving with a staffer in his district, actively engaging in a Know Your Rights campaign. His stated mission was to warn local businesses and residents about the presence of federal immigration agents, CBP ICE, a response to an ongoing surge in enforcement activities across the Chicago area. Huynh's account is highly alarming. He claims that his vehicle was surrounded and boxed in by multiple CBP vehicles and 6 agents after he began honking to alert the neighborhood. Crucially, he alleges that one agent approached his car, pointed a gun directly at his face without warning, and only backed down after Huynh repeatedly identified himself as an elected official. His staff captured the aftermath on video, showing the tense standoff, although not the moment the gun was allegedly drawn. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, presents a drastically different narrative. A DHS spokesperson asserted that Huynh was stopped not once, but twice, for following agents and trying to interfere with federal operations. They claimed Huynh was warned after the first encounter and ignored it, forcing agents to make a second stop to assess if he was a threat. DHS branded Huyhn's behavior as unbecoming of a public servant, and an example of sanctuary politicians putting our officers at risk. The immediate analysis shows 2 irreconcilable narratives. A state legislator claiming he was violently intimidated while exercising his duty to his constituents, versus a federal agency claiming they were obstructed by a public official whose actions posed a threat to an ongoing operation. The lack of public body camera footage from the agents, which Huynh has vocally demanded, makes independent verification of the most dangerous allegation, the drawn weapon, impossible, leaving the public to rely solely on conflicting accounts. Reasons and consequences. The primary reason for this dramatic confrontation is the clash between the federal government's enforcement strategy and Illinois' status as a sanctuary jurisdiction. The federal Operation Midway Blitz targets what it terms criminal illegal aliens. But its aggressive, highly visible tactics, including the deployment of Border Patrol agents far from the border, have been widely criticized by state and local officials as aggressive overreach and racial profiling. Representative Huyhnh's action, actively canvassing and using his vehicle to warn communities, was a direct, organized political challenge to the federal operation. From the agent's perspective, this may have been viewed as obstruction of justice and a genuine security threat, particularly in a high-tension enforcement environment. From Huyhnh's perspective, he was fulfilling his commitment to protecting the constitutional rights of residents targeted by what local leaders perceive as an invading force. The consequences of this incident are wide-ranging. Heightened community fear. The image of a state representative, a high-profile figure, being stopped at gunpoint only confirms the worst fears of immigrant communities regarding the aggressive nature of federal agents, further discouraging cooperation with any law enforcement. Political escalation. The event has provided fresh ammunition for Illinois political leaders, including Governor J.B. Pritzker and other Democratic lawmakers, to demand federal investigations and accelerate efforts to pass stronger state-level protections, such as clarifying the Illinois Trust Act against federal immigration overreach. Accountability crisis. The dispute over the drawn weapon highlights a profound lack of accountability and transparency when federal agencies operate locally. Demands for immediate body camera footage release have become a central element of the political fallout. Prediction and solutions. Prediction. The short-term future will be characterized by continued political and legal battles. Representative Huynh and the state of Illinois are likely to pursue further formal inquiries and potentially litigation to clarify federal agency boundaries within the state. Given the political context of the federal operations, The DHS is unlikely to voluntarily release body camera footage without a court order, meaning the competing narratives will persist in the public sphere, maintaining a high level of tension. Federal enforcement actions will likely continue, but the agents will face increased scrutiny and active resistance from local officials and activist groups. Solutions. To mitigate such dangerous and destabilizing confrontations, several solutions must be pursued. Mandatory body camera policy and release. A clear federal policy mandate must require CBP and ICE agents to wear body cameras during all community-facing operations and establish an automatic release protocol for footage when allegations of excessive force or official misconduct are made. This is essential for transparency and de-escalation. Formal interagency protocols. The state of Illinois and DHS must establish formal, legally binding protocols that define the rules of engagement for federal agents operating within the state's sanctuary jurisdictions. This should include communication requirements, uniform identification standards, and clear limits on when and how force, including the drawing of a weapon, can be used in non-border zones. Jurisdictional clarity. The U.S. does. Congress or the courts must provide clear legal demarcation regarding the extent of federal immigration authority in areas far removed from international borders, limiting the kind of roving patrol operations that contribute to racial profiling and community disruption. The encounter with Representative Huynh serves as a chilling example of what happens when federal and local law enforcement goals directly intersect and clash without clear communication or oversight, underscoring the urgent need for defined boundaries and mandatory transparency.